then my wife had pulled up, and we decided that we were going to go ahead and walk and see if we could go separate ways to see if we could find them as well.
Okay.
So we walked the trail, and I walked to the bridge, to the edge of the bridge. There were a couple of kids that came walking up. They were students at Delphi as well. I knew who they were. I had asked them, hey, have you seen Abby or Libby? And they both said that they hadn't seen them, that there was somebody else that was there looking for them, which come to find out was Derek.
Okay.
And he had also asked if they had seen the girls as well.
In all interviews and stuff where Derek's timeline is spoken of, I have never once heard any mention of him coming across two students that went to school with Libby that he asked if they knew where the girls were. And the way it sounds is that when she came up to the bridge, they came up to her. So I don't know if they were crossing the bridge or they came up to her from behind. But I definitely have never heard on Derek's account that he came across any kids that were Libby's age that knew Libby and Abby.
I just know that I do remember that when we were up at the police station, they had us get all of Libby's devices, any devices that she might be on or anything. We took everything up to the police station that night.
Okay.
Had all of her stuff right from the beginning. And I think Anna went and got all of Abby's stuff also.
Mm-hmm.
So they all their devices and was going through it and stuff.
Now, about Abby and Libby's electronics, did they find anything, that may have given them pause to go, looks like they may have been talking to somebody, anything troublesome on their electronics at all?
Nothing that I'm aware of.
Tara, anything?
I don't actually talk to the police unless I have something to share with them. So that's information that they're not going to share with us.
Yeah, and let's jump to that here if we could.
There are rumors that you deleted things from Libby's phone or other devices or accounts. Is this true or false?
False. Actually, somebody else hacked into her account and was deleting things. So I had to figure out her password and go in and get out of it. They deleted their own message thread, I believe, but I was able to get that back.
That was like really early on. I kind of remember that on Twitter or something or somewhere, right?
Yeah, somebody had hacked into her account and I know who it is.
Yeah.
It wasn't even really a big deal. I talked to this person and they were like, well, I just wanted to see if I could get into it, which I thought was crazy. I had a big fight with this person because on Instagram, I don't know if you still can, but you were able to see that somebody was active. I went in and turned that setting off, but for Libby's account, people were seeing that she was active and this person was messaging Libby's friends. And so I was getting messages from Libby's friends saying, hey, are you on Libby's account? And I wasn't. I was like, no, what are you talking about? I didn't even know the password at that time. So I was like, that's insane. How could anybody be on there unless it was law enforcement? So I ended up actually contacting law enforcement and saying, hey, somebody got into the account. I'm going to figure out her password. I'm going to log in and I'm going to make it all private, to which I did. And that's the extent of that. I did go in and I went through as much as I could find.
Kind of makes you a little bit like, God, man, they could have deleted that person could have deleted things that were important.
Yeah. But I didn't notice that anything else was deleted that I hadn't already looked at. So like, I was already like logged in on another device on her account. So I didn't know the password, but I had gotten rid of that account or that device. So I didn't have her account anymore. So I had looked at everything before. So I should have said that first. So like, I didn't see that anything was deleted other than this person's message thread, which I had previously gone through. So there wasn't anything important in it. And so I don't know why she deleted it or this person deleted it. Sorry. I don't want to out them. But law enforcement does have access to her account. So even if they did delete something important, law enforcement can get that back. So it really wasn't important, but wasn't me. I didn't delete anything. I actually went through stuff and tried to find stuff that would help law enforcement.
Yeah. So
really didn't find anything. The last message I think we found going out was like at about 2:30, which was like a Snapchat of a picture of them out there on this bridge on the trail system. And that was the last communication we've had.
When you're doing the investigation, again, you want the whole picture. You're finding pieces of the puzzle that you fill in, and it slowly comes together into something that you can recognize.
So I looked into Snapchat records. So after looking into the type of records that police can get from Snapchat, I reread the 194-page document, and I think the reason that Detective Vito was focusing so much on this phone was because they were trying to see just how much Kegan knew about what police were able to obtain from Snapchat. So let's talk about the type of user records that police can obtain from Snapchat and the legal process they have to follow to obtain these documents, because this is important, all right? So first off, there's two types of information that you can get. The first is the basic subscriber information, and that contains email addresses, phone numbers, Snapchat user vanity name, Snapchat account creation date, and IP addresses. It also contains the timestamp and IP addresses of logins and logouts. And there are several ways that authorities can obtain this information. And one way is by an administrative subpoena, which, according to this arrest affidavit, is the process that Indiana State Police Cybercrimes Unit used to obtain this information. The second type of information that can be obtained from Snapchat is logs of previous Snap stories and chats. Snapchat retains logs for the last 31 days of snaps sent and received, 24 hours of posted stories, and for any unopened chats or saved by sender or recipient. And it's also important to point out that these logs only contain metadata. So who it's sent to, who received it, if it was open, and the time. There's no way for police to find out what content was in the message at all. The only way that would happen is if it was unopened or the sender or recipient saved it to a cloud storage. That's the only way. And the way that authorities can obtain this type of information is only through a federal or state warrant, or there's a court order under 18 U.S. Code 2703, and that is irrelevant to this case. That has to do with surveilling and notifying or not notifying the person that they are surveilling. So that's not what this is. That would have nothing to do with this case. But there's no mention in the arrest affidavit about any federal or state search warrant issued to Snapchat. And there's also no mention about any records or logs of snaps sent or received from Kegan to Libby or from Libby to Kegan. So the only mention in that entire police interview really about Snapchat, other than the logins and logouts, was this mystery friend that they bring up. And they say, the friend sent you a message asking if you knew what happened to Libby, and you responded, oh my God, what happened? And she responded with what happened. And then he sent another snap saying, oh, I was supposed to meet her, but she never showed up. Well, unless that friend came forward and screenshotted those messages or saved them to the cloud, if they did file the proper warrant to get those records, then why was there no mention of any of the timestamps of snaps sent from the Anthony Shots account to Libby? And he vehemently denies responding to that girl or those exchanges on Snapchat. And according to Demi Johnson, the Wish TV reporter, she said that Libby's parents only found out about the Anthony Shots communicating with Libby when the documents were leaked. So if this friend existed, police would have had to have gone to interview her and get her story, which it seems most likely then they would go to the family, one, to find out who this friend was and how close she was to Libby, because one, the friend could have been involved. You don't know. Crazy things happen all the time. Since they didn't go to the family, it makes sense. And I want to know, if the police didn't file the proper warrant to get these records, I want to know why they didn't, who dropped the ball, and then if they did file the proper paperwork to get the state or federal search warrant, where the hell are the records talking about or showing the timestamps sent and received to and from Kegan and Libby? I mean, come on, what's going on here, guys? Night the girls went missing because we know, according to Libby's grandmother and Mike Patty and Libby's sister, Kelsi, that by 5:30 p.m., Libby's phone was dead or shut off because all calls were going straight to voicemail. I mean, that's documented several times in tons of articles on tons of newscasts. So, and they've stated that AT&T's last successful ping was at 5:30 p.m. Well, according to the Headline News Down the Hill series, a former Delphi fire chief, Daryl Sturrett, said around 2:30 a.m., Sheriff Toby Lesbany called him saying that Libby's phone was pinging again and it was coming back to the Monon High Bridge. So they had to have the fire department come out to help so they could have better lighting. Well, Libby's phone was dead. We know that. We know nobody was calling that phone and getting through. It was going straight to voicemail. So there would have been no pinging at all. So what I want to know is, could police have discovered the video and audio that Libby took on her phone at 2:30 a.m. on the cloud? Because we know for a fact, because this is stated in plenty of interviews and news reports, that Kelsi, her sister, knew Libby's passwords. And also we know that Mike Patty, Libby's grandfather, around 5:30 p.m., shortly after the girls were reported missing, he brought the police all the devices from the house. So the police with the password and all the devices would have had everything they needed to check the cloud saver storage if Libby did use that. And that makes sense that they got that video and audio that night, because if you look at the timeline of when they released the first photo of Bridge Guy, and it was literally less than 24 hours after the girls were found. The girls were found on February 14th around 12:35 p.m. So that means if police did in fact find Libby's phone at the murder scene, that would have been a really quick turnaround to have that photo on the news the next evening, because they would have had to have found the phone, bag it in an evidence bag, send it to a forensic lab, and then they would have had to, dust it for prints, check it for DNA, bodily fluids, stuff, and it would have to be processed and completed before police would even be able to physically touch the phone, to plug it in and charge it, and to see what was on it. So it only makes sense that that video and audio was discovered around 2:30 in the morning. The thing is, we're never going to get any answers from the police. They're being so secretive with this 5 years later. Anytime you try to ask Doug Carter anything about, evidence, timeline, anything about the Anthony Schatz account, he gets super defensive. So I honestly think that the reason police are being so secretive is they're more concerned about the public figuring out how they messed up the investigation than they are about finding Abby and Libby's killer. I mean, what else would it be? They're people just like you and me. And we all make mistakes, right? I'm sorry, and this is going to be hard to hear, but this case, it's no longer just about Abby and Libby. And as uncomfortable as that is to hear, it's just the truth. Because it's about future victims, their rights, their family's rights. I mean, that could be my daughter. That could be your daughter. And police aren't qualified or capable of doing an investigation properly. The public has a right to know. I mean, these are paid civil servants. And how are we, as parents especially, going to be able to, and God forbid, if anything ever happened to one of our children, how are we going to be able to know what are the proper questions we need to be asking from police, especially when it comes to social media? I mean, you don't know what the laws and regulations are. So how would we know even what to make sure that police were doing? So I'm sorry, it's time to release the goddamn evidence. So
this was just a few things I found interesting. Please like and subscribe. It's an easy way to support this channel. And leave a comment and let me know what you thought.